Ha- Hello, our viewers. We have a guest today. Our guest today is Mr. David Steinman. Mr. Steinman is a democracy promotion and nonviolent expert who was the senior foreign advisor to Ethiopian democracy movement for 27 years. He was the first to expose the TPLF's corruption and crimes against humanity in mainstream global media and helped plan the Kennedy 2005 civil resistance and election campaign. In 2020, Mr. Steinman filed a complaint with International Criminal Court that exposed Tedros Adhanom's crimes as an Ethiopian official. The news created a global media sensation. David Steinman has a degree in economics from Wharton School. He was nominated for 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. He has written a historical novel about TPLF dictatorship titled Money, Blood, and Conscience. Welcome, Mr. Steinman.
Thank you.
So we will be talking about your book, obviously. So what is the book about?
Well, it's about different things on different levels. It's primarily about an Ethiopian American love affair that takes place during the Meles dictatorship. But it's also an expose of the evils of the TPLF, and it's also a criticism of Western policy towards Ethiopia going all the way back since the TPLF first took power. So it's about a lot of different things.
For our viewers, let me try to share the book right here, the cover page of the book. Here you can see the cover of the book, Money, Blood, and Conscience. So this is a book, and then having said that, let's back to our discussion. So why did you write the book?
I was frustrated that Westerners have such little understanding of Ethiopia's troubles. Ever since I first began to oppose the TPLF beginning in 1991, it was very difficult to get Western governments and Western public opinion to take an interest in the subject. And when they did, they frequently misunderstood. I, for a very long time, had a lot of trouble generating much international interest in the subject. But I was able to publish some op-eds, some opinion pieces that began to break the ice. And over time, I was encouraging other journalists to cover the story. And, as the years went by, the media interest grew. But it occurred to me that there were still a lot of people who didn't follow Ethiopian news, and that I might be able to reach them and educate them about Ethiopia in a more innovative way. So I created a work of entertainment. I actually call it infotainment because it entertains, but it educates at the same time. And the idea is that someone reading it will have an entertaining experience. It's a beautiful love story. It's a political thriller. But by the time the reader is finished, they also will have learned a lot about Ethiopia's human rights crisis, about its struggle for democracy, about the cruelties of the TPLF, and of course about the courage and resilience of the wonderful Ethiopian people.
Great. So I understand there is a connection between the book and the International Criminal Court complaint against Tedros Adhanom. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. The book, of course, combines fiction and investigative journalism. So, although there are fictional characters as well as real characters in the story, after the story ends, there's a very short afterword or author's note in which I basically write a message to the reader saying, in effect, well, now you've read this story, you've learned about Ethiopia. Now there's some hard facts that I want you to understand. And the afterword calls for the senior TPLF leadership to be held accountable for its crimes against humanity. But then there's also a section of that which discusses the involvement of Tedros Adhanom in those crimes against humanity when he was a senior Ethiopian official, 2012 through 2016. And the revelations in that afterword, which is really the first time in Western media that he was personally accused in this way, I then later used as the basis for the complaint that I filed with the International Criminal Court. So the ICC complaint came out of the afterward on the book.
Yeah. So to make some follow-up question here, Ethiopia is not signatory to the ICC. To the ICC, correct?
That's correct. Not a signatory.
Yeah. So is it possible to bring member of or official of a country that's not signatory to the ICC?
Yes, there are two loopholes. The first one is called the Effects Doctrine. And what that means is that the ICC, it's true, does not have jurisdiction over Ethiopia, but it gets jurisdiction over any individual who causes harm to a member state of the Rome Statute, which is what the ICC enforces. So, for example, we recently had in Myanmar or Burma a case where Myanmar is not a signatory to the Rome Statute. However, the repression of the Rohingya Muslim minority caused them to flee into neighboring Bangladesh, which is a member country. So that made the junta in Myanmar fall under the ICC jurisdiction because the flow of the refugees into Bangladesh harmed a member state. So in the case of Ethiopia, Tedros and of course, other TPLF members caused refugees to run into Kenya, Djibouti, Uganda, South Africa, Western European countries, all of whom are member states of the Rome Statute. So once they became refugees in those countries, the crimes that were committed in Ethiopia continued into those member states. So that harm to the member states who have to contend with all of these refugees on their territory then made Tedros fall under the ICC jurisdiction. Now, there is a second way that the ICC could have jurisdiction, which is if the Ethiopian government lodges a formal request with the ICC prosecutor to accept what's called ad hoc jurisdiction over Tedros. And what that means is that the government of Ethiopia can ask the ICC to accept jurisdiction only over Tedros as an individual without Ethiopia becoming a signatory to the Rome Statute. The Ethiopian government has not done this yet, but I hope they do so.
Yeah. Obviously, in the war between Ethiopian government and TPLF, the position of Tedros really upsets a lot of Ethiopians and maybe the Ethiopian government too. And probably they can do what you said. So getting back to the book, actually, so far, what has been the public reaction to the book?
I'm actually very pleased with the public reaction. If one goes to the book's Amazon page and reads the reviews, of course, many of them, are from Ethiopians who very kindly express, appreciation for having their story told. But you also see their reviews posted by Westerners who write about how they did learn from reading the book and how it opened their eyes to what's going on over there and how it motivated them to take an interest in the subject. So, in that sense, I would say the book is proving to be quite effective in raising awareness in the West, and the reaction has been very positive. The book has a 4.5 star rating, which is quite high, and so people seem to enjoy it not only because of the education that they do receive, but they also seem to like the characters. And it's a beautiful love story between an American Hollywood producer and an Ethiopian guerrilla fighter, a very beautiful young woman. So people enjoy the love story and the mix of the cultures, and they seem to get a lot of pleasure out of reading it.
Does the book have any relevance to what's going on in Ethiopia today?
I think so. One of the most disappointing aspects of the current war, as far as the Western reaction goes, is that Westerners tend to treat both sides, the TPLF and Ethiopia's federal government, as morally equivalent. They're staying neutral, and they basically are ascribing moral equivalency to the two sides. And I think that if they understood the history and the background of the TPLF, they would understand how unfair that is. There was a Nobel Peace Prize. Actually, he won the Nobel Literature Prize, named Elie Wiesel, who wrote about the Nazi concentration camps. And he said that neutrality in the face of evil is also very wrong, that people do have to take sides. And I think that if people read the book, they will understand why it's wrong to treat the TPLF as an equal, legitimate negotiating partner. And instead, they will better understand if they read it that the TPLF, at least its senior leadership, has to be removed from power altogether, that it's simply an existential threat to Ethiopia and Horn of Africa stability.
So I remember this book was published in 2017.
No, it came out very late at the end of 2019, really. Yeah. 2020, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. However, so did it include, does it have the Oromo protest part and the things that has been taking place between 2015 to 2018, all the movements?
No, the story actually ends with Melis's death in 2012, but it does cover the period of the Melis regime, all the way from 1991 to 2012, and that's more than enough for people to get a good understanding of what's the true nature, the character, and the motives of the TPLF's leadership.
Great. So, how can the readers or people who want to get the book, get it?
It's available through many online bookstores, but the easiest is just go to Amazon.com, type in the title Money, Blood, and Conscience, and you'll see it there. There's a Kindle version, which is only $6.99, so it should be affordable for everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. And any advice to other maybe foreigners, people who are engaged in? I know a lot of people, even in the West, are following things, developments in Ethiopia and around the Horn. So, any advice, or do you recommend them to do the same thing? Kind of, uh, write things up, or do you have any idea? Or to Ethiopians too? Uh,
Well, my advice to Westerners, of course, is that they should recognize that Ethiopia is a very important country, that it's been suffering for a long time, that it deserves greater support, greater interest, but it also deserves to be treated more fairly than it has been. I don't believe that the State Department or the European foreign ministries really have a good understanding of what's at stake here. I don't think that they mean Ethiopia any harm. I think they're just uninformed and
oh,
misguided. Um,
I recall the letter you addressed to uh, the envoy
Jeffrey Feltman.
Jeffrey Feltman, amid the while the war was going on, correct?
Yes, I published an open letter to presidential envoy Jeffrey Feltman, which basically said that the U.S. policy of neutrality was counterproductive, and I didn't think it would work. And I also suggested that he should step down in favor of a new envoy with less baggage. So I've been criticizing U.S. policy actually on Ethiopia for 30 years. So it's something I've maintained for a very long time. Um, but as far as advice for Ethiopians, well, I don't know if they really want to listen to advice from a foreigner, but to the extent anyone would, I would only say that dialogue is important. My views on the necessity to remove the TPLF, of course, are very well known. But generally speaking, I would say that if anyone studies the history of Ethiopia, it becomes clear that political gains at gunpoint have always resulted in more dictatorship. The only um, political gains that work out in terms of anchoring democracy in a culture, if you look around the world and throughout history, are much more likely to be those that were won through nonviolence. And if you look at recent Ethiopian history, you'll see that it's really nonviolence that's proven the most effective means of bringing about political change. So I would encourage Ethiopians to remember and use what's worked, and to realize that nonviolence is more likely to bring them to their goals than violence.
Thank you very much. I hope we will have other sessions, more discussions, because you know a lot about Ethiopia. You have been working with Ethiopian Democratic Movement, and there are a lot. Actually, we also work together at some point, and so there is a lot to discuss. Hopefully, we will have another sessions. With regard to the book, we advise our viewers to get a copy of the book, and for Ethiopians also very helpful, especially those kids who are born here, brought up in the Western countries. They're good at understanding that if they want to know about what has been going on in Ethiopia, it's a good to have that copy. And other people, also Westerners, who want to know about what kind of system of government Ethiopia had, would be advisable to get a copy of your book. And thank you for accepting my invitation and give us this brief about the book.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to speak with you. I'll look forward to the next time.
Thank you. Have a wonderful time.